Imagine standing at the edge of a raging river, your heart pounding as you prepare to lead thousands of people into uncharted territory. The odds are stacked against you, powerful enemies ahead, doubt behind, but one thing keeps you moving forward: faith in a promise that seems impossible to fulfill. Welcome to Twisted Tales, where we uncover the most fascinating stories from history and scripture that inspire, challenge, and transform. In this video, we're diving deep into the life of Joshua, the man who led an entire nation into the Promised Land. You'll discover how he conquered fortified cities without traditional weapons, faced unimaginable challenges, and relied on divine guidance to achieve victory after victory. But here's what makes this story truly gripping. It's not just about battles and miracles, it's about lessons we can apply to our own lives today. Whether you're facing personal struggles or chasing big dreams, Joshua's journey will teach you the power of courage, obedience, and unwavering faith. And trust me, you don't want to miss the lesser-known events, like the shocking reason behind the Israelites defeated Ai, or the symbolic act that sealed their covenant with God forever. So stay tuned till the end, because by the time this video wraps up, you'll have a fresh perspective on leadership, faith, and what it takes to step into your own promised land. Before we begin, if you haven't already subscribed to Twisted Tales, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss an inspiring story like this one. Now, let's get started. Before we talk about the conquest of Canaan, let's take a moment to understand who Joshua was. Joshua wasn't just a random leader chosen by chance, he was a man tested and trusted. He served as Moses' assistant for decades, learning leadership under one of history's greatest prophets. But what many don't realize is that Joshua was also one of the 12 spies sent to scout the Promised Land. While 10 spies brought back fearful reports, Joshua and Caleb stood firm in faith, believing God could deliver them victory. This unwavering trust set Joshua apart. When Moses passed away, God didn't choose someone new from outside the group. He selected Joshua, a man already proven through years of loyalty and courage. God gave him clear instructions: be strong and courageous. These words weren't just encouragement, they were a command to lead with boldness despite the challenges ahead. Joshua's story begins at a pivotal moment. The Israelites had wandered in the desert for 40 years due to their lack of faith. Now, it was Joshua's responsibility to guide them into a land flowing with milk and honey, a place filled with fortified cities and powerful enemies. His journey wasn't just about geography, it was about stepping into destiny under divine guidance. The stage was set for one of history's most remarkable leadership stories. But before the battles began, there was another miracle waiting to unfold: the crossing of the Jordan River. This event would not only test Joshua's faith but also solidify his role as a leader worth following. Before we dive into the battles of Canaan, let's explore one of the most defining moments in Joshua's story: the crossing of the Jordan River. This wasn't just a simple journey, it was a test of faith and a demonstration of God's power. The Israelites stood at the edge of the river, watching its rushing waters, knowing there was no clear way forward. But God had a plan, and He made it clear to Joshua: "This day I will begin to make you great in the eyes of all Israel." What happened next was nothing short of miraculous. As the priests carrying the Ark of the Covenant stepped into the water, the river stopped flowing. The waters piled up upstream, creating a dry path for the entire nation to cross. It was a moment that echoed the parting of the Red Sea under Moses, but this time, it marked a new chapter, a fresh beginning under Joshua's leadership. But here's something many overlook: the significance of the 12 stones. After crossing, Joshua commanded one man from each tribe to pick up a stone from the riverbed. These stones were set up as a memorial on the other side. Why? So future generations would remember how God brought them safely across. It wasn't just about marking history, it was about teaching faith to those who weren't there to witness it. The crossing of the Jordan wasn't just a physical event, it was a spiritual milestone. It showed the Israelites that God was with them every step of the way. And for Joshua, it was the first major test of his leadership, and he passed with flying colors. Now, with their feet firmly planted in the Promised Land, the real challenge awaited. Jericho, a heavily fortified city, stood as the gateway to their destiny. And what happened there would become one of the most famous stories in human history. Before we move on to the broader conquest of Canaan, let's focus on the incredible story of Jericho, the first major battle in the Promised Land. This wasn't just any city, it was a fortress with towering walls, seemingly impossible to breach. But God had a plan, and it wasn't what anyone expected. Instead of swords or siege engines, the Israelites would use silence, obedience, and an unusual strategy. For 6 days, the Israelites marched around the city once each day. The priests carried the Ark of the Covenant, and 7 trumpets made from ram's horns were blown. No one spoke a word. Imagine the tension, no shouting, no fighting, just the sound of footsteps and trumpets echoing against those massive walls. It must have felt strange, even confusing, but Joshua trusted God's instructions completely. On the 7th day, everything changed. The Israelites circled the city not once, but 7 times. On the final lap, at Joshua's command, they shouted with all their might as the trumpets blasted. And then, the unthinkable happened, the walls of Jericho collapsed. Without a single weapon touching them, the fortified city fell into their hands. It was a victory that came not through human strength, but through faith and obedience. What makes this story even more fascinating is the role of Rahab, a woman who lived in Jericho. She risked her life to protect the Israelite spies, believing in the God of Israel. Her courage didn't go unnoticed. She and her family were spared when the city fell. Rahab's story reminds us that faith can be found in unexpected places, and even outsiders can play a key role in God's plan. The fall of Jericho wasn't just a military triumph, it was a lesson in trust. It showed the Israelites that no obstacle is too great when God is leading the way. But as we'll soon see, not every battle went smoothly. The next challenge would test their faith in a completely different way, and it wouldn't end well for everyone involved. Before we explore the lessons from Jericho further, let's talk about what happened next, the surprising defeat at Ai. This event is often overlooked, but it holds a powerful message about the consequences of sin and the importance of unity. After the miraculous victory at Jericho, you'd think the Israelites would be unstoppable. But instead, they faced an unexpected setback. The city of Ai was small and seemingly insignificant compared to Jericho. Joshua sent spies who reported that only a few men would be needed to conquer it. Confident in their earlier success, the Israelites attacked, but they were soundly defeated. 36 soldiers lost their lives, and the entire army retreated in shame. It was a shocking blow to their morale, and Joshua couldn't understand why God had abandoned them. What the Israelites didn't know was that one man's sin had jeopardized the entire nation. Achan, a soldier from the tribe of Judah, had disobeyed God's command. During the Battle of Jericho, they were told not to take any plunder for themselves, it all belonged to God. But Achan stole gold, silver, and a beautiful robe, hiding them in his tent. His greed brought guilt upon the entire camp, and God withdrew his protection. When Joshua discovered Achan's sin, the consequences were severe. Achan, along with his family and possessions, was brought to the valley of Achor, where they faced judgment. It was a sobering moment for the Israelites, reminding them that individual actions can have collective consequences. Sin isn't just a personal matter, it affects everyone around us. This defeat at Ai became a turning point. It taught the Israelites the importance of accountability and staying true to God's commands. Once Achan's sin was dealt with, God restored his favor, and the Israelites went on to conquer Ai successfully. But the lesson was clear: obedience isn't optional, and faith requires discipline. As we move forward, we'll see how these early victories and setbacks shaped Joshua's leadership, and how the land was eventually divided among the tribes of Israel. Before we wrap up Joshua's story, let's talk about one of his most important tasks, the division of the Promised Land among the 12 tribes of Israel. This wasn't just a logistical challenge, it was the fulfillment of a promise God had made centuries earlier to Abraham. The land was divided carefully, according to God's instructions, ensuring fairness and unity among the tribes. Joshua didn't simply hand out territories at random. Each tribe received a portion based on their size, needs, and God's specific guidance. For example, the tribes of Reuben, Gad, and half of Manasseh had already chosen to settle east of the Jordan River, while the others were assigned lands west of the river. The Levites, who were tasked with serving in the tabernacle, didn't receive a large territory. Instead, they were given cities scattered throughout the land to live among the people and guide them spiritually. What makes this process remarkable is how Joshua handled potential conflicts. When the tribes of Joseph complained that their allotment was too small, Joshua encouraged them to clear forests and expand their territory themselves. He reminded them that God had given them the strength to overcome any obstacle. It was a lesson in self-reliance and trust in God's provision. But there's another lesser-known detail worth mentioning. As part of the division, Joshua set aside cities of refuge, safe havens where someone who accidentally killed another person could flee for protection. These cities reflected justice tempered with mercy, showing that even in victory, the Israelites were called to act with fairness and compassion. The division of the land wasn't just about settling into new homes, it was about building a future. Each tribe had its own inheritance, but they were still one nation under God. Joshua ensured that everyone had a stake in the promised land, reinforcing the idea that unity and faith were essential for their survival and prosperity. Now, as Joshua's life drew to a close, he had one final message for the people, a farewell speech that would leave a lasting impact on generations to come. Before we conclude this incredible story, let's focus on Joshua's final words to the Israelites, a powerful message that still resonates today. After years of leading the people through battles, victories, and challenges, Joshua gathered everyone together for one last time. He knew his days were numbered, and he wanted to leave them with a clear choice: to remain faithful to God or risk losing everything they had fought for. Standing before the nation, Joshua reminded them of all God had done. He recounted their journey from slavery in Egypt to the conquest of the Promised Land. He highlighted God's faithfulness, His miracles, and His unwavering guidance. Then, with deep conviction, Joshua delivered his famous declaration, "Choose this day whom you will serve." It was a call to action, a challenge to decide where their loyalty truly lay. Joshua didn't just urge the people to follow God, he led by example. With boldness, he proclaimed, "As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord." These words weren't just a statement of personal faith, they were a commitment to live according to God's laws, no matter the cost. Joshua understood that leadership isn't about titles or power, it's about setting an example for others to follow. But Joshua also warned them about the dangers of complacency. He reminded them that if they turned away from God and worshipped other gods, they would face consequences. The same land that had been given to them as a blessing could become a curse if they forgot the one who had brought them there. It was a sobering reminder that faith requires constant vigilance. This farewell speech wasn't just a goodbye, it was a legacy. Joshua left the Israelites with a choice, knowing that their future depended on their obedience. He challenged them to remember the lessons they had learned and to pass them on to their children. His final words echoed a timeless truth: faith is not inherited, it must be chosen, nurtured, and lived out every single day. With this powerful message, Joshua's leadership came to an end, but his impact would endure for generations. Now, as we reflect on his life and legacy, we can see how his story continues to inspire us today. Joshua's story is more than just an ancient tale of conquest and leadership, it's a timeless lesson for all of us. From his unwavering faith at the Jordan River to the walls of Jericho tumbling down, and from the sobering defeat at Ai to the fair division of the land, every moment in Joshua's journey teaches us something valuable. What stands out most is this: success isn't about human strength or clever strategies, it's about trust in something greater than ourselves. Joshua didn't win battles because he was perfect, he succeeded because he obeyed God, even when the path seemed impossible. His life reminds us that courage isn't the absence of fear, it's moving forward despite it. And let's not forget his final challenge: choose this day whom you will serve. These words are as relevant today as they were thousands of years ago. Whether you're facing personal struggles, chasing dreams, or leading others, the choice to stay faithful, to remain courageous, and to act with integrity can shape your destiny. As we close this chapter of Joshua's story, think about your own life. Are you standing at the edge of your own promised land, a goal, a dream, or a challenge waiting to be conquered? What walls are standing in your way, and what steps of faith are you willing to take to see them fall? Thank you for joining us on this journey through the life of Joshua. If this video inspired you or gave you a fresh perspective, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to your channel name for more stories that empower and uplift. Until next time, remember, faith and courage can lead you to places you never thought possible.